time for this week's difficult conversation from Lucy Letby, the doctor's strikes, record waiting lists and a funding black hole. It seems the NHS is always in a state of crisis. No matter where you are across the country, there are issues everywhere relating to the NHS. And in Bristol, patients have been campaigning for years after more than 200 patients underwent a mesh bowel operation they might not have needed. Now, after a long wait, details of the allegations against surgeon Tony Dixon have been revealed, with a medical tribunal set to begin next month, which will look into allegations Dixon failed to provide adequate care between 2010 and 2016. All sounding horribly familiar, this, isn't it? Mr. Dixon has previously said that he is unable to comment while proceedings are ongoing. He has always maintained the operations were done in good faith and any surgery could have complications. Now, Paula Goss is the founder of Rectopexy Mesh Victims and Support and is one of the victims of these surgeries herself. She joins me now in the studio to talk about what she and the people in her organisation have been through, and to talk about the NHS and how it's treating patients in general at the moment. Paula, thank you so much for joining me. Really lovely to see you. Paula, just tell us briefly about your organisation, what you do and what has happened to you. It sounds horrific.
Well, my story happened back in when I had the mesh inserted in 2014. I then had...
This was for a prolapsed bowel, is that...
I didn't have the prolapsed bowel. Some people do, some people don't.
Right.
I was actually not informed correctly when I was given the operation, which we've subsequently found out. So predominantly, yes, the rectopexy is done if there are issues with bowel prolapses. Yeah. It shouldn't be done for any other issues really, but it has been. So that's when my journey started in 2014. Subsequently ended up very ill in hospital in 2018. Started my group in 2019 because I was trying to get information, trying to understand my situation, but also if anybody else was going through it. And that's how the group was formed, and it's gone from strength to strength. We don't just have rectopexy mesh patients on there. We have others that have had vaginal, bladder slings, hernias. So it is quite a mixed group, but we do support, and that's the thing, because without the support, they don't know what treatments they can get, can't get, and it does seem to be a bit of a postcode lottery, specifically with the NHS treatment.
And how do you feel you and your fellow sufferers have been treated by the NHS?
In the beginning, obviously, when they've been implanted and everything else, and when they go back, there was a lack of education, there was a lot of ignorance, there was discussions, whether it's male or female, because rectopexy bowel mesh is given to males and females. Yes. But you're told it's your age, you're overweight, it's your hormones, it's some other reason. It can't be the mesh implant that was given to you. And in fact, because there are thousands and thousands that are suffering these complications, they were never adequately tested on humans in the past. They don't know. So they need to learn. And even now, we helped the Patient Safety Commissioner create a letter for patients to take to their GPs. We're still getting now ignorance from all GPs, consultants, healthcare settings saying they don't know anything about mesh. It's been in the headlines for years.
And they still don't know.
And they still don't know.
And the tribunal is happening next month?
So the tribunal is happening next month. From my point of view, I can only hope and trust that the GMC investigate the 6 cases thoroughly and that the outcome is adequate for what he has done to patients.
You must, I mean, I can hear in your voice, I can hear the emotion in your voice. You must be incredibly, obviously you've been through, you read some of the detail, but I'm not going to read it all out online because it's fairly horrific, but please have a Google at Paula's story and see what you have been through and some of the people in your organisation what have been through. It is not pleasant stuff, is it? It's horrible. No. And it's ruined lives. And I think at one point I was reading about some people feeling suicidal with what they were going through.
We've sadly had suicides. Recently, even just last year, Boxing Day, we had a suicide from one, which was absolutely heartbreaking.
Waiting for some sort of closure and some sort of justice.
What they have to understand is these patients are going through chronic pain. They're not being listened to. They're then having stress, and it's not just the stress of their condition, what's been caused by this. If they're having to go down litigation, that again is causing the extra stress on these poor patients. So it is really, really difficult for them to navigate. That's why all the support groups, and it doesn't matter how many, whatever they join, there is loads. And there's a reason why there's loads, because there's so many that have been harmed.
So why has the NHS ignored you? Why are they not listening? Why do they still not know what is going on?
That's a question we've asked quite regularly, and we don't get many answers.
It's appalling. I mean, this is the NHS. This is our NHS, right? You know, it has become a cult. I think we'll all agree. But our NHS, we pay for it. It's meant to be looking after us, and it just seems to do an incredibly bad job. As you say, you know, if your people, someone took their own life over this.
We've had quite a few suicides. I think the issue is, and this is not just done in NHS hospitals, sadly, these implanting were done in private and NHS hospitals. At least in Bristol, there were reviews done. So the NHS hospital and the private hospital where the surgeon worked did do a review, albeit they didn't call all the patients, they did call many of them. Unless they do a UK-wide review, NHS hospitals and patients, and pull in specifically rectopexy I'm talking about, but I think they should do it with all, pull all the patients back and see where they are, see what complications they've got. They're never going to really truly understand the figure of how many thousands are damaged.
I just find it appalling that the NHS is there for us, and you know, this comes back to the horrific story of the neonatal nurse Lucy Letby, killed 7 babies, and that hospital, Countess of Cheshire Hospital, appeared to put the reputation of that hospital before the lives of their patients, and particularly those vulnerable patients, those tiny babies. It must, even though it's a completely different case, it must have resonance with you.
It does, and I think that's down to culture. I think it's also down to that there are people who are in these environments, in these hospitals, that know what is going on. They are either A, too scared to speak up, or B, they know what's going on and they seem to be complicit with what's going on. And that is systemic culture within these NHS.
That must make you, Paula, with what you've been through.
Yeah,
furious.
Makes me really, really
absolutely
angry.
Furious. I mean,
really
you know,
angry.
there were commentators with the Council of Cheshire saying that the managers there who ignored the warnings from 4 senior doctors have blood on their hands, because if they'd have listened initially, at least 2, possibly 3 of those babies would still be alive today.
Yeah.
There'd be 7, 8-year-old kids kicking a ball about, enjoying the last days of their school summer holiday. They're not with us now.
No, exactly.
And you've got people that have come to you, to your organisation, who are no longer with us because the NHS didn't listen, didn't act, and are still not listening.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
It is quite incredible. Paula, I can only bow down in admiration for you for fighting all this time. It must be incredibly hard. A wonderful organiser. How can people get in touch, by the way? How can people get in touch?
We've got the support group on Facebook. We've also got a business page which has got the email address on there, or they can just find me on Facebook and I'll quite happily point them to the organisation.
Okay. Right, and that's Paula Goss, rectopexy, mesh victims and support. Paula, thank you so much for coming.
Thank you so much for having me.
Please keep up your good work. Thank you.
Thank you.